Hello and welcome back to the channel, everybody. I'm going to try and get through this video without dogs storming in and knocking over my setup or something going wrong. It has been one of those days on the farm, our first real snowfall, and the dogs are restless today. What I want to talk about today is I would say, number one error people make in their content. And it's usually really good people that are trying to help and show that they're the expert, right? So the intentionality behind this is I'm trying to differentiate myself. I'm trying to show that I'm the most expert of experts. And through attempting to prove that you're the most expert through value content, strictly value content, it just allows you to blend in. And we see this all the time, right? Especially with human design and gene keys. Well, what sets you apart from the probably million other posts on Instagram that are using the hashtag gene keys or human design? What sets you apart? And within that, when we're looking at building a brand, not only do your posts need to stand apart, but you need to stand apart. So people need to want to stop the scroll and be like, this person gets me. This person's in my head because of the content of this post. But further than that, they're just like me. They dress like me. They speak like me. They present themselves like me. It's all the intentionality behind your brand. And that's rooted in your brand archetype. However, we're not going to really get into that too much here on this episode of the podcast. We'll talk about that later. And I also have a secondary podcast coming out. I'm expanding the universe, very similar to Taylor Sheridan and his universe within Yellowstone and his portfolio, if you will, between all his shows. I am, by the way, watching Lioness. Epic show. Wow. We just finished Tulsa King. He's another case study that I'm actually preparing behind the scenes to do for my new upcoming podcast, Movements Mythos. So we're going to focus on Taylor Sheridan for a piece of it. Anyway, everything Taylor Sheridan does, gold. Recommend watching it. And that is part of his marketing genius as well as word of mouth. He has no really fancy marketing, right? So today, let's get back on track, Ashley. Today, I want to talk about stop trying to explain the process and inspire them with the outcome. How many of you, and I use gene keys and human design as just an example because it is so fucking saturated. The market is so saturated. Good luck presenting yourself as like the quote unquote BG5 expert or human design expert or gene keys expert, even if you want to slap business on top of it. Why? It is so saturated. And even if you use those tools, you want to stop explaining the process and inspire people with outcome. People don't care about the process. They just want to know how you help them. So today we're going to be breaking that down and also tackling the topic from the lens of balancing value with storytelling. Because what I see so often is really good people, especially when you're heart-led, you want to do good work in this world, and you see kind of more of the fluffy marketing and you see more of the word salad marketing. You're like, I don't want to be associated with that, right? I want to provide all this value. I want to help people change their lives, and I don't want to be associated with that. So what ends up happening is a lot of good-hearted people that have movements they believe in and truly want to do good in the world, they over-explain in their content or they over-detail in their content. And I'll never forget, at the International Human Design School, one of my mentors had said, first lines, no one cares about your details. And that was in the human design side, the International Human Design School. That wasn't even at BG5, which is a business application, yet it's so true, regardless if you look at the business application or otherwise. People don't care about your details. They want to know the outcome. They want to be inspired to join your movement, and they want to be inspired by the outcome, what is possible for them. All right. So this is where I see a lot of good-hearted people get stuck is over-explaining, and then they're blending in. It's like second line this, and gut health that, and relationship this. And if you go to the hashtag, there's a million other posts that are exactly the same, with maybe the same branding colors, same tonality, everything is exactly the same. If I can, and I want to add this a little bit off the cuff, one of the diseases in the personal branding space is when you can, and there's certain people that people associate this with, but it's broader than just one or two people. You know exactly whose templates someone's using. You know exactly who someone's following or coaching with just by landing on their page, right? That is like, it's a disease that has caused homogenization within even the personal branding space. And that's another layer on top of the over-explaining process issue, is you're also just using templates that feel like the person you learn them from. So I want to talk about the two extremes first, and we're going to break it down. I'm going to give you actionable steps that you can take when you leave. So let's explain first those two traps that people get stuck in. On the one end, it's process heavy posts. Everything is like a master class, but there's no story. There's no emotional connection. There's no feeling. It's step by step this. And while you are fantastic at showing your knowledge, and we can tell you are the most expert of experts in the online space, what happens is, one, you're giving everything away for free. And it's not that, and I know Gary Vee says a lot of give it all away for free, right? It's not that I'm saying don't give value. But what happens, and I'm going to use myself as an example, wink, wink, storytelling, right? So when I would post really detail-oriented posts on BG5 as an example, in relationship to business, online, on my YouTube, on my Instagram, on all my content, right? Well, I was giving it away, but what happened was, well, one, people were like, okay, cool. Now I know where to notice niche. I know how to figure out niche, and I'm just going to do it on my own. When they're missing so much of the depth of what actually goes into it and why I'm using that tool. Why am I using that tool? Why am I looking there above and beyond just niche in terms of actually creating a brand and a movement, right? But people are taking that one piece and running with it. Two, people are just copying it and teaching their own clients that information without referring back to me. So it was no credit. No, this is where I learned it. It was just people ripping off my content and repurposing it. But ultimately what we're looking at is people are like, all right, great. I don't necessarily need to hire them. I'll just do it for myself. It's not though. And I don't want us to go all the other side here and say, well, what Ashley is telling me then is don't give any value away. No, I'm going to tell you exactly what to do. Okay. The second piece of this direction, where it's all detailed processes, all prompts, is where it's actually not bad and it's intentional. Okay. So there's the one piece of, you have a very thin line, and it takes someone very intelligent and intelligent in marketing to walk this line. Okay. So you're going to say, Ashley, but there's people I follow that have huge businesses and every post is AI prompts or copywriting prompts, and that's the foundation of their entire business. It's still not the same as from a place of, I'm just giving it all away for free. I'm just telling people exactly what they have to do. What the intentionality there is they're speaking to someone that wants shortcuts. Okay. They're intentionally curating their content to speak to someone that's looking for that. They are looking for templates. They're looking for the hack. They're looking for that simple thing they can apply. So with that, some of my favorite people to follow are doing that in their content. A lot of their content is ChatGPT hack this, ChatGPT prompts that, ChatGPT prompt this. And then they've been building that up. And then on the back end of their launch campaign, they're selling their offer, a workshop on ChatGPT prompts. If that is your niche, it's not necessarily bad, right? For me, it's not who I want to speak to, and it's not how I want to build my brand, but it's not necessarily bad if you're intentionally building a community. So you'll notice with someone like that, let's use this as an example. A lot of ChatGPT prompts, they have a very strong, very active community. They have built very intentional, rooted connections where it's like a community vibe. Everyone's chatting in the comments. Like, it's just a very strong community. And so the quick hacks that they're giving is intentionally built for that type of community, but they've also over time built that strong community where it's like, I don't care what this person puts out, I'm going to buy from them because I freaking love them, right? So it's a very intentional branding, positioning, and it's not just here's value. I'm new to the online space and I'm just going to inundate you with a bunch of hacks and a bunch of tips and a bunch of tricks for using ChatGPT. I've built a solid community. People know me as the expert. And now I'm intentionally leading up to a ChatGPT launch. And so I'm going to give you the prompts to show you how badass I am even in my free content. That is actually a marketing campaign, depending on who you want to speak to. And from that campaign, usually you are attracting someone that's looking for shortcuts and hacks, not necessarily the innovators, which isn't wrong. There's nothing wrong with this. It's very intentional. It's a business decision. But they're not looking for that transformation. They're not the innovators. They're not looking to innovate. They're just like, just give me the hacks. This is where it can become a problem. Okay. So with that crowd, if say, for example, your niche, you want to talk to me. Okay. So you want someone like me to hire you. I don't hire someone that does that. It's not how I hire. Why? I have a different mindset. I might see someone that posts a lot of templates and ChatGPT. Let's run with ChatGPT because it's really popular right now. So I might see someone that posts a lot of ChatGPT prompts. And all that does for me is like, holy shit, that sparked an idea. And then I innovate a bunch of ChatGPT prompts for my community. And all it took was like scrolling Instagram and seeing someone else post a hack online. And I'm like, oh my goodness, we can call it just the entrepreneurial brain. We can call it the creator archetype. We can call it sacral response, whatever you want to call it, but everyone has that ability. I just immediately get inspired to now create a database of prompts for myself, for my clients. Okay, so that's why I say it's very intentional who you're speaking to. And then your price points have to match that. If you're looking for someone that are looking for shortcuts and hacks, usually you're not then pitching them a $50,000 offer on the back of that, right? It's probably like a $47 workshop or something. So that's intentional. But again, if you're looking to speak to someone that is maybe an innovator in their own right, that's not going to attract them. Now, the other end, we're getting in a little in the weeds here. The other end of the trap for content is fluff and word salad. All right. We all know, we see this, right? There's no value to be found. It's people posting vague, almost poetic content about like step into your power, calibrate to the vibe of abundance. But there's no real substance. You're like, what the fuck does that even mean? And how do I do that? Now, that could either turn you off or someone, again, this is where like there's the extremes as well, right? There's a lot of people online that have fluff word salad content, but they are masters at sales psychology and hypnotic language. And so it works. I don't recommend it. I think that could be moving over into the realm of manipulative. However, you look at their content once you kind of stop drinking the Kool-Aid and you go, holy shit, there's no value here. There's no value in the courses. I didn't actually learn anything. What attracted me to this content in the first place? And it's because it's hypnotic language, a lot of NLP tactics, and well, sales psychology. You know, with sales psychology, I love sales psychology. And I always joke with my clients that with great power comes great responsibility. You guys know we do pop culture references here. So with great power comes great responsibility. Spider-Man. What do I mean by that? Sales psychology can be very powerful and used for bad, and it can be very powerful and used for good with helping people see what you actually do so they can make an informed decision. Okay, so it can be used for bad and it can be used for good. There was a push for a long time in the online space and personal branding space, especially of like, that's bro marketing, bro. And it's really bad to use stuff like that. Well, the person that was trashing sales psychology or that type of approach to marketing was doing it in their own campaigns, right? But under the guise of feminine flow, and I just say what I want. So there's those two ends. And like you could see, there's the two ends and spectrums within it. So I wanted to also present the spectrums within it so that you don't leave this and you're like, but I follow someone on Instagram and they post a lot of ChatGPT prompts and I really like learning from them. It's often also a strategy based on a very intentional marketing campaign based on who they're looking to attract. So that's also where knowing who you want to speak to is so critical. A lot of people are out here with no directions, being like, why am I not getting there? Why am I not getting my goal? Why am I not speaking to the right people? Why are the right people not hiring me? And you don't have any damn directions. How do you create a marketing campaign? How do you create your content if you have no idea who you're speaking to? Okay, so it's really important to have that map in your hands before you get started. Now, where the real value is is anchoring value in storytelling. Anchoring value in storytelling. I don't care what your design is. This is where people get up in their heads and they're like, my design is missing the storytelling channel. I can't, like, I'm not a storyteller. Or someone will say, you know, well, I have this storytelling channel in my design, so then I can only storytell. No. All right. We want to anchor value in storytelling. One of the ways we could look at that as well is TED Talks. TED Talks, if you watch a really powerful TED Talk, you walk away with so much value, and it's through the form of storytelling, right? They're not getting up there giving you a lecture, but you feel moved, you feel connected to the person, and you walk away with value that likely hit you on a deeper level because it was rooted in storytelling. They weren't just like, and point one, this, and point two, this, and point three, this, right? This is where you also see someone like Emily D. Baker. She'll break down the law, but you are captivated. I'm not even American, and I am captivated by Emily D. Baker breaking down the law because she storytells. She creates emotional connections. She makes it fun. Okay, so this is where the value is anchoring value in storytelling and authentic storytelling. I've been pushing a lot of my clients to be like, be more you in your shit. You're goofy behind the scenes. Why so serious? Batman, Joker. Why so serious? Bring your goofiness to your content, right? And I actually wanted to do, and let me know if you guys would be interested, a video on self-censorship versus social filtering. Self-censorship versus social filtering. A lot of people are self-censoring and calling it social filtering. And then there's other people that don't social filter at all and then wonder why it negatively impacts their brand. So that is also an option for us to dive into. However, when we're looking at anchoring value in storytelling, I want you to think about connecting your audience to the transformation you offer through relatable, emotionally driven stories. And you weave in the actionable insights that showcase your expertise. All right, think TED Talk. I want you to hold TED Talk in your brain. You're not overwhelming them with steps. You're not leaving them almost like grasping for meaning, thinking, what did I even take from this word salad? And you're also not just leaning on the tools, which I see a lot of people do, is just leaning on the tools, baby. Like this is the tool. We need to bring you in. Otherwise, what happens? And I want you to think about it. What happens if one day you're building your entire business? This is why I've shifted out of like positioning BG5 at the forefront. What happens if one day Gene Keys, like no one wants to buy it? It's like so passe. It's like bell-bottom jeans, right? Like no one wants it. It's like, I don't know, leprosy or something. I don't know. I'm trying to think of an analogy, but people are like, get away from me with your Gene Keys. And you've built your entire brand on it. What then? That's why we want to be very cautious. And even human design, if you look at trends, it had a massive peak. It's kind of plateauing right now. And it is going to inevitably, I know, don't panic. It's inevitably going to go down. That's what trends do. And it'll stabilize over time into a very niched market. But if your whole business has been BG5 or human design, and that's the only thing you've presented yourself as being able to do, you're going to have a harder and harder time presenting your work and getting sales as well, because I always tell my clients, your niche is not growing as fast as competitors are coming in. So as a tool like human design starts to decrease, it's natural, don't panic, starts to decrease. Well, your niche, as in people that are purchasing, right? Potential client pools, that's not growing as much as competitors are coming in. So now it's like vying for the attention of the same amount of people with more competitors. And that is the nature of the material plane, especially in the online space. That's why I always say smallest viable niche wins. So I want to give you a couple examples of this. When we help people really see the vision of the transformation and the movement you're creating, they start to trust you that you're the one that's going to help them get there. We are tribal beings at the core. We want that emotional connection. This person gets me. You want people to think you get me. No one thinks you get me I just want a little bit of a rant. No one thinks you get me if you just copy and paste the purpose, fear, and Gene Keys and create content on it. No one's like, holy shit, you get me. No one. Maybe Richard Rudd got them, but wasn't you. You just copy and pasted it, right? So this is why it's so important. I'm not saying don't use the tools, but you want to anchor it in storytelling and position you and your transformation you bring and the movement that your transformation is in service of at the forefront. All right? That's at the forefront. I have a couple examples I want to break down for you guys because I'd say most that I work with, 99%, which is exactly who I want to work with, are people that are looking to create change in the world. Ultimately, it's not just to make more money for themselves, but to actually do good things in this world. So I want to see you make more money. And I have two examples to help anchor this in. If you're like, I can't really see the difference in what you're talking about. And we'll use Steve Jobs as an example. I love Steve Jobs. I wish he was still, oh my goodness. Him and Ra are two people. If I could go back in time and have met anyone, they would be the people I would choose. So let's say you're a business coach working with burnt out entrepreneurs. All right. So this is example one. Instead of posting a step-by-step guide on how to avoid burnout, right? You're like, how to avoid burnout? Because let's be honest, how many posts, and you can even like, check me on this, go to Instagram and type in hashtag burnout in women. How many posts are you going to see about burnout in women? A lot. Okay. So instead of saying like step-by-step guide, 5 steps to reduce burnout in women, share a story of a client of yours. This client, say, went from working 70-hour weeks, completely exhausted, to building a business that supports their life instead of consuming it. But how'd you help them do that? Anchor the story in one key insight. Was it a funnel you built for them? What did you do for them? One key insight, like maybe how you help them shift from being reactive day-to-day operations, like they're an employee in their business, to a high-level CEO. And so they started to delegate. That might be an example. One, not I help them build a funnel, I help them delegate, I help them do this, I help them that, and because of my 7-step process, and here's my 7-step process. This is an example, a story, real life example of how I help this person with this very specific outcome that you also want. That's storytelling with value. So your audience is going to walk away thinking, wow, one, holy crap, that client's just like me. And sometimes that can work even better because one, it's social proof. You help someone get that transformation. But two, sometimes your clients can, or your community, your audience can look at you and be like, well, it's easy for you. Right? So to be like, look, I helped this person do it too, can be very valuable. So people walk away and they're like, oh my goodness, that person's just like me. And if it was possible for them, it's possible for me. And then they get to see your expertise in action. It's not just more step-by-step shit online, right? It's like expertise in action, and it creates an emotional connection. I work with a lot of mental health people in the mental health field as well. Coaches, counselors, therapists, people specializing in mental health. It makes up a big portion of my client base as well. I have customers in the chicken business, client base as well, because of my past as a counselor. And so that resonates, right? Also that storytelling of my past as a counselor and working in that mental health field resonates with a lot of people that are also in the mental health field. So I get hired by a lot of individuals that are in the mental health field because I get them and I get their niche in a way a lot of other people can't. So if we look at it from the mental health perspective, let's imagine a therapist specializing in anxiety. Instead of creating a post about the psychological and physiological maybe causes of anxiety, you could tell the story of a client who went from feeling paralyzed in their morning routine to thriving in their daily life after learning one key tool that you use. Maybe it's breath work, cognitive reframing, meditation. This one key tool that you use, and this is how it shifted. And you can even back it up. I'd recommend in this example, back it up with data. Like get their Fitbit pictures. What was their stress like before? What was their heart rate variance like before? obviously with permission, if you're a coach in the online space that's helping, like a lot of people, the therapists I work left their therapy practice and they're coaches now, you need permission. Or what you can also do is get data, start to track your clients, right? Okay, when they start coming to me, the average heart rate variance is like 20. And then after 3 months of working with me, look at this data. The heart rate variance is 60. Their heartbeats went on average from 78 beats a minute down to 66 beats a minute. What else? Deep sleep went from 20 minutes a night to 2 hours a night, right? And you can start to even do your own research within your own business. There's an interesting tool for this for positive psychology coaches, and I had access to it a long time ago. I don't have it anymore, but you could actually track based on certain variables. There's probably other platforms that let you do this, but track, right? Start to track. And what was that thing? But focus on one tool that helped this client go through this transformation. Anchor it in one story and one tool. You're not trying to give them the cow and the milk for free. You're not giving away your full process. Don't worry. You're going to overwhelm people and confuse people don't buy. You're leaving your audience with something actionable and inspiring. And most importantly, showing them what's possible with your guidance. Do you want to know someone to study who is an expert at this? The holistic psychologist. She is an expert, whether just from studying it and building that skill. Now I'm interested to look back at her original post, but she is an expert at color, font for virality and to catch people's attention. She's an expert at bringing very complicated psychological processes into a very like relatable reel or post, and she anchors everything in storytelling. Like you watch a lot of her reels as well. It's storytelling and like actually playing out the scenarios. She is a genius. If you want to understand a mental health example of what I'm saying, go to the holistic psychologist. Her page is a masterclass in it. Now, Steve Jobs is also an example with the Think Different campaign. He is a genius. He is a marketing genius. And I'm going to tell you guys, and if you've been around for a while, you know this story. I say it all the time. I repeat the same stories, hint, hint, because they're brand stories that I bring back over and over intentionally. You don't need to keep reinventing the wheel. Reinvent your reels, not the wheel. So when I first saw the Think Different campaign, I found the Think Different campaign when I was studying Steve Jobs. So I don't study people in the coaching space. I study people like Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, like the big names, Oprah Winfrey, the big names, Taylor Swift in their industries to understand like what is working in branding. Because it's one thing to know like cognitively, okay, this is branding and this is personal branding, this is archetypes in business. It's another thing to see it in action. So I was studying Steve Jobs and I saw his Think Different campaign and he explains it. There's a video going around. Well, not going around. It's an older one that I've used for like the last 5 years with clients. And he explains the reasoning behind the Think Different campaign. He says, I'm not talking about specs. He even talks about the Got Milk campaign. And he says, they're not even talking about like, it's like the absence of the product in their campaign. It's like, do you have milk? Because I don't, right? So he even like points at that. It's like the absence of milk in their campaign. In his campaign with Think Different, he talks about how it's not the specs. It's not how fast we are, how much better we are than our competitor. That has nothing to do with it. He inspires the viewer with a vision. It's a world, the whole Think Different commercial is a world where misfits, rebels, the crazy ones are the ones that change the world. It's a world where those that think different have the tools to think different, which is a Mac. And he names some of the biggest leaders throughout history. And then at the end, he says, you know, if they were still alive, I know they'd be using a Mac. Well, I saw that campaign and I was like, why don't I have a Mac? Because I'm like those people and I have Androids. And those people I have an Android phone. Those people aren't going to use an Android. And after seeing that campaign, it was such a strong emotional connection to the archetype he was speaking to, which is the outlaw or rebel archetype. speaking to the core of who they are, saying like, I know you haven't been seen, you haven't fit in, but you fit in here because I believe in you. I believe you change the world and you just need the tools to do it. And so anyone that identifies as rebel, anyone that identifies as black sheep or rebel, they're like, wow, I need Max. But it's anchored in storytelling. It's anchored in an emotional connection. And it's very fucking simple. Like Steve Jobs believed in simplicity and clarity. It is not confusing. It is not fluffy, like quantum leap over the next timeline, best life, manifestation, abundance. Like, no, think different. If you're a rebel and you think different, you need to buy a Mac. Okay. And that's what made Apple a movement, not just a brand. And then that's also what made Apple such a movement that if you had one product, you needed it all because you identified on a core identity level with the movement Apple was creating. And you can do that in every personal brand. It's not just physical products. Taylor Swift is a genius at that. Taylor Sheridan of Yellowstone, Tulsa King, Lioness, so many others, 1883, all of those. Probably best known for Yellowstone, but I recommend watch all of his stuff if you enjoyed Yellowstone. He is a genius storyteller, and it's the same theme within every one. I'm not saying that his stuff's the same, but it's the same theme that you'll see woven in. He stays very true to the archetype he's built and the archetype that's based on who he is, which is why it feels so authentic, the universes that he's created. So what we're looking at is these are movements, not just brands. Taylor Swift is a movement, not just a personal brand. That is what stands the test of time. And no one here, Taylor Swift isn't like 3 ways to get over your boyfriend. She tells a story through her songs, through her poetry and her songs. She's not like, this is what you have to do to get over a boyfriend. No, she brings you on an emotional journey. And that's the power of storytelling. That's the power of actually creating a movement. Taylor Swift is a movement. Taylor Swift, the brand, is a movement. So I want to leave you guys with this. How do you now apply it to your business? How do you anchor your value in story? Like, I'm not talking your value as a human being, your value content in storytelling. Please don't get this confused that now your value as a human being is only relevant to your ability to storytell. Is not what I'm saying. So how do we actually do this? Number one, I want you to start with a vision. All right. What is the transformation your audience wants? For that, I'm assuming you know very clearly and specifically who you are speaking to. Because if you don't, you can't answer even point one, right? Because I'll have people say, well, you know, I work with like soulpreneurs that really want to do good things in the world and live their purpose. How do you create content for that? Specific content that makes people feel seen, right? What does that soulpreneur want? What specifically is that person's problem? And then what usually I hear, and this is something I was correcting people on the last BG5 business bundle membership call. We have Q&As monthly. What I hear often is, well, they want to feel confident. They want to feel happy. They want to feel empowered. Those are emotions. That is not the problem they have. And that is not the transformation they want. Your audience does not want to feel confident. They feel confident because of a transformation you got them. If someone has a paralyzing fear of public speaking, but they want to be an actor on Broadway, their problem they're hiring someone for is not confidence. I want you to answer in your head what they are hiring someone for before I even say it. Okay, so their problem, if they have a paralyzing fear of public speaking, but their goal, their dream is to be on Broadway, confidence, they might not feel confident in front of a audience, a live audience, but that's not their problem. They need to work on public speaking skills. They are hiring someone for public speaking skills, right? And probably someone very specifically that helps someone get to Broadway, an acting coach that's going to help you get to Broadway, not just a rando acting coach. Like I help people become actors on Instagram. No, if you want to get to Broadway and that's your goal, they're probably hiring someone that helps them get to Broadway. So you need to start with that. I'm assuming you already have a very clear niche. If you don't, figure out what the root cause of their problems is. Burnout as well. Something I want to also say, because I hear a lot of people say they're burned out. That's a feeling. What's the root cause of that? What's causing the burnout? Are they burned out in their personal brand because of self-sabotage and self-censorship patterns? Okay, well, then you need help them with self-sabotage and self-censorship. Burnout's too broad, right? But if you start talking, Africa Brooke is a great example of this. You start talking specifically to self-censorship and self-sabotage in the age of cancel culture, which is causing their burnout. Whoa, you just nailed an underserved niche. You want to even go deeper? Self-censorship, self-sabotage patterns in the age of cancel culture for ADHD women, and an even more underserviced niche, right? And not only then do you stand out, but further than that, you also can charge more because you're the only one doing what you do. So I hope that example helps of how deep. Keep asking, like, what is the core of their issue? 2, so 1, start with the vision. What is the transformation your audience wants? Lead with that. 2, weave in a relatable story. So I want you to start bringing the vision to life through a client story, or even through your personal experience, or use a pop culture reference like Steve Jobs or Taylor Swift. A lot of people connect with me because I use a lot of pop culture references in my content. It is also intentional. It is who I am. I talk pop culture all day. My husband gets tired of hearing about Buffy, which is like been done for 22 years or something. He always teases me about that. All the pop culture references I make in everyday life. So that's authentic to who I am. I'm not forcing it. That is literally how I speak in everyday life, probably more so than online. I bring it into my stories. I bring it into my content. I story tell through pop culture. I story tell through my own experience. I don't care what profile you are in human design. You have to do this. Don't be like, oh, it's only for 3rd and 6th lines because, trial and error. It is for everyone if you want to be growing a brand and scaling a movement. It is for everyone if you want to take like your brand. Brands get recognized, yes, but movements inspire action. So if you're finding your brand is getting attention, people are like, yeah, cool, but they're not moving. It's because you don't have a movement that inspires them. You don't have a movement that's inspiring action. You don't have a movement and stories that are anchoring you as a solution for them. So 2, client story, personal experience, pop culture reference, but bring a relatable story forward. Connect with people, like real human people. 3, highlight one key insight. 1, don't give away the cow and the milk and the baby that's inside the cow that's going to be born and giving them more for free. Don't give away the whole process. Anchor the story in one takeaway or tool that they can start testing and feel into and see themselves within. So we get to like connect. This is their vision. This is the story they relate to. We're like, holy shit, you get me. And then we give them one valuable tool that they're like, cool. So not only do you get the transformation I want, you see me because you're like me or you like the same things as me. And then 3, you also know your shit. You're also an expert. You're also just not all talk. And then 4, you're going to end with a bigger picture. And this is very simplified, guys, at the end of the day, right? Very simplified, but it can get you on the right track. 4, end with the bigger picture. Tie it all back to your movement. What's the larger transformation you're inviting your audience into? What is the larger movement that you are in service to? So for me, the sanctuary and the idea that good people do great things with more money has always been the larger transformation that I'm moving with people. Moving myself and my community are moving with. That was an awkward way to say it. But I always tell the story. If you've been here for a while, you know I always tell the story about my good friend. And when I used to, have no money other than a hope and a prayer that one day I would help animals by sharing an Instagram post or liking an Instagram post or Facebook post at that time, commenting on it so that it would be seen or be pushed up in the algorithm. That was my way of helping. And at that time, I actually thought that rich people were greedy, to be quite honest. And then I started to get to know someone. She became a good friend of mine that would donate millions. We met through animal rescue work, donating millions of dollars a year to animal rescue, to end animal suffering, to end animal testing. And I was like, holy shit, good people do great things with more money. I want more money so I can do more good things in this world. And so the bigger movement that I created and brought my community on with me and really documented was me in a basement in a corner with the lights off with no lighting. I didn't have any lighting at the time. Didn't have Kajabi. Didn't even know what Kajabi was. Like hope and a prayer, baby. Me in a dark corner of a basement recording because I didn't have an office. I had nowhere else that was quiet to record, to purchasing the farm animal sanctuary at the end of, I think it was 2022. It was December 2022. We bought the farm sanctuary, and then documenting that and bringing farm animals onto it. And what I talked about yesterday is where I lost sight was the next evolution of it and bringing people on the bigger mission, right? So I stopped that, which was a big breakthrough. I had watched the video or listened, stream the podcast that I posted yesterday for more on that. But ultimately, it was a big vision. And I attracted a lot of people that wanted to do good things in this world with more money. But it was always anchored in the vision. When things went sideways, it was because I even lost sight of the vision, or sorry, lost sight of the movement that was meant to inspire not just myself, but others as well. All right, so here's what I want you to remember. I'm going to wrap it up for you. I swore this would only be like 10 minutes. Never is. I storytell. Providing value isn't about draining your audience of their soul as they're like so much value. It's like the 50 books I have on the bookshelf that I'll never read, right? They're like saving all your shit and they're never going to get back to it. Providing value isn't about drowning your audience in steps. It's about inspiring them with what's possible when they work with you. It's about helping them feel seen, maybe for the first time ever. The difference between value and fluff is value is going to leave your audience with a clear takeaway. All right. So I don't want you to think now it's about going all the way over to fluff. Value will leave your audience with a clear takeaway that is connected to your overall brand and your overall movement. And it helps them maybe with a shift in perspective. That's something usually a TED Talk will do, is a shift in perspective, maybe a spark of inspiration or a tool they can use. Fluff is going to leave them confused. If someone is very skilled in hypnotic language and sales psychology, it might leave them in a hypnotic state where they're purchasing from. But I know for you and me who believe in ethical marketing, that's not your goal. So when people that actually believe in ethical marketing try to use fluff or use the tactics that that type of person would use, it just leaves people confused AF, right? Because that's not who you are. You want to use ethical marketing. So my challenge for you today is to look at your content. Are you over explaining the process? Are you leaning too far into vague and pretty words and magical unicorn abundance when you hold the vibe and quantum leap in my Manifestation Babe Academy, right? Or are you anchoring your value in storytelling, connecting your expertise to your audience's transformation that they want, not that you're projecting on them that they want. That's another problem that a lot of people do. They're like, you want this transformation. Your audience is like, no, I don't. Stop trying to force this shit on me, right? People are like, no, you want it. And then wonder why people aren't buying. So that they want a transformation that they want, anchor it in storytelling, connect your expertise, the audience's transformation they desire, and like start to play with that sweet spot, right? Step into that sweet spot. And there's gonna be nuances for everyone's audience, which is based on your niche. Because remember I said there are people that are putting out just like ChatGPT this, ChatGPT that, ChatGPT this as part of their marketing campaign into a launch of a workshop. But it's very strategic. And it's targeting a very specific person that is indeed wanting very quick templates and hacks. If you're trying to speak to and if you want to attract the innovators, people that are thinking for themselves, but posting that content, you're really going to struggle. So that's why knowing who you speak to is critical. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I do have some fun stuff coming for you. I do have a new newsletter that's going out on Fridays. It's the Disruptor Weekly. And this is all about looking at branding and where the market's going. I'm going to give you some tips, some projections. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's just for my email list. you can go to my website, ashleybrandoneve.com, and get on my email list. I also do have them creating behind the scenes Movements and Mythos, which is a new podcast. And it's going to be focusing more on pop culture, the Taylor Sheridans, Taylor Swifts, Oprahs, those that have like really become cultural phenomenons, and why and how did their branding work for them? What did they do right? And so I want to, the long-term goal, I'm just putting it out into the universe right now. I would drop dead if Taylor Sheridan agreed to be interviewed by me. Just putting it out into the universe now. November 29th. Have you guys ever seen Elise Myers? And actually, I want to interview her as well on it one day. Putting that out to the universe as well. But have you guys ever seen when her goal was to meet Lance from NSYNC? And see, pop culture references. And she finally got to interview him and speak to him. And she was so excited. Or when she had that situation with Dwight from The Office too. Those are the two people that I would die. Mostly because Taylor, I'm just so obsessed with his underdog story. If you know him, when he was on Sons of Anarchy, he's done interviews about this, where he's basically told he wouldn't make it in the industry. Can you believe that? He's told he wouldn't make it in the industry, and he is like a juggernaut of the industry now. Like, he is the industry. He's like the Taylor Swift of the TV show world. The man, I said this to Scott last night. I was like, the only thing worth watching right now is something created by Taylor Sheridan. That's it. I don't even have to read the description. Watch it, because I know it's going to be incredible. I know it's going to connect to themes that I identify with, individual, like being your authentic self, that rebel archetype, gritty, raw. Like, I just know it's going to connect with things I love, because that's a theme that he has. But anyway, he's like the Taylor Swift of the TV show world. I love him, love anything by him, highly recommend his stuff. But those are the two people I'm putting out into the universe to interview for that. So that is coming. What else do I have? A workshop in December. I haven't come up with a name yet. So you're going to have to stay tuned. Email list is the best place to stay tuned, my friends. But either way, I'm going to let you go for today. Go to ashleybrandoneve.com, get on the email list. Every Friday, you're going to get the Disruptor Weekly. I'm really excited about that. And you'll be the first to know if a workshop's coming out. I'm going to have a new mastermind, small group mastermind coming out for the new year. You can be the first to snag spots. Those are always limited spots. They always sell out. So lots of fun stuff coming, and I can't wait to support you in it. But for today, that's all I have for you. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.